Why India isn't taking back Pakistan-occupied Kashmir after winning the war. Segment 1, Introduction and Background. In the aftermath of a hypothetical decisive Indian victory in a conventional war with Pakistan, one question reverberates throughout the minds of civilians and analysts alike: why isn't India reclaiming Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, PoK? This question stems not only from nationalist sentiment but from a long-standing historical and political claim that India has maintained since the partition in 1947. However, despite the apparent military advantage post-conflict, the decision to not occupy PoK is far more nuanced and involves a confluence of global diplomacy, nuclear deterrence, regional stability, and internal strategic calculations. To understand why India would restrain from such a move, it is essential to revisit the historical roots of the conflict. When British India was partitioned, the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir was given the option to accede to either India or Pakistan. Maharaja Hari Singh chose to accede to India in October 1947, leading to the First Indo-Pak War. However, before the entire territory could be secured by Indian forces, Pakistan-backed tribal militias captured a portion of Kashmir, what we now refer to as Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Since then, this region has been a core dispute in all three major wars between India and Pakistan. The Simla Agreement in 1972 and the Lahore Declaration in 1999 committed both nations to resolving the Kashmir issue bilaterally. As a result, India has consistently upheld a stance of not altering the line of control, LOC, through force, despite laying claim to the entirety of Jammu and Kashmir, including PoK. This introduction sets the stage for a detailed examination of the geopolitical, strategic, economic, and humanitarian dimensions that explain India's restraint in this complex issue. In the coming segments, we will delve into international pressures, nuclear considerations, regional dynamics, internal challenges, and future outlooks. Segment 2, International Pressure and Diplomacy. Global politics play a significant role in the decisions of sovereign nations, especially those with as much at stake as India. The international community, comprised of major powers, global institutions, and regional organizations, has a vested interest in maintaining stability in South Asia, one of the most volatile regions in the world. One global scrutiny: after a military victory, any Indian advancement into PoK would be viewed through the lens of international law and global norms. Such a move would be perceived as an attempt to alter recognized borders by force, a red line for many Western democracies and the United Nations. 2. Impact on image. India has long positioned itself as a peace-loving, democratic, and law-abiding nation. Aggressive military action into PoK could harm this image and diminish India's global soft power. Countries like the United States, France, and Germany may criticize or even sanction such a move. 3. UN obligations and bilateral promises. The United Nations Security Council has long called for a peaceful resolution to the Kashmir issue. Although its resolutions are often cited selectively, any military movement into PoK would contradict these principles. Moreover, the Simla Agreement commits both countries to bilateral talks, and India's violation of this could be used against it in diplomatic circles. 4. Trade and economic repercussions. Global condemnation could extend to economic fallout. Countries may reduce trade, delay investments, or restrict technology sharing with India. In a globalized economy, these risks could outweigh the benefits of military occupation. 5. Alliances and partnerships. India is part of strategic alliances such as the Quad, with the US, Japan, and Australia, and it has close ties with the EU. A destabilizing move could strain these relationships and affect long-term cooperation in defense, space, and technology. In conclusion, while military victory may open opportunities on paper, the geopolitical costs of moving into PoK could be disastrous for India's long-term ambitions on the global stage. Segment 3, Nuclear Deterrence and Strategic Calculations. India and Pakistan are both nuclear-armed nations, a fact that overshadows nearly every military decision between the two. Despite a decisive win in conventional warfare, the nuclear shadow remains a critical deterrent against further escalation. 1. Pakistan's nuclear doctrine. Unlike India's declared no first use policy, Pakistan's doctrine allows for first use under extreme circumstances. If India were to advance into PoK, Pakistan could interpret it as an existential threat, justifying a nuclear response. 2. Escalation ladder. Conventional war often follows a predictable path, but when nuclear weapons are involved, the conflict can spiral out of control quickly. Even if India calculates that Pakistan won't retaliate, there's always a chance of miscalculation or rogue elements within Pakistan's military taking matters into their own hands. 3. Global nuclear stability. The world keeps a close watch on nuclear flashpoints. India, as a responsible nuclear power, would want to avoid triggering an international crisis. Restraint in the face of victory reinforces India's credibility as a mature and responsible nation. 4. Deterrence credibility. Not acting on a military victory doesn't necessarily weaken India's strategic posture. Instead, it reinforces the concept of deterrence, where the aim is not to fight wars but to prevent them altogether. 5. China's reaction. Any Indian move into PoK could provoke China, a close ally of Pakistan and a major stakeholder in the region due to the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, PoK. This could open a two-front conflict scenario for India, complicating its strategic position. Hence, despite a military advantage, the nuclear angle remains a powerful reason for India's strategic restraint. Segment 4. Regional stability and humanitarian concerns. Taking control of PoK is not merely a territorial exercise, it involves human lives, communities, and socio-political systems. A sudden occupation would have far-reaching consequences for regional stability. 1. Insurgency and resistance. PoK has been under Pakistan's control for over 70 years. The population may not welcome Indian governance overnight. This could lead to a prolonged insurgency, draining Indian resources and causing human rights issues. 2. Ethnic and sectarian tensions. PoK is ethnically diverse, with communities like the Gilgit-Baltistan population having their unique identities. Integrating these groups without creating friction would require a nuanced and inclusive governance model. 3. Refugee crisis. A sudden change in control could displace large populations. India would have to manage a refugee influx, provide humanitarian aid, and establish governance structures in a hostile environment. 4. Terrorist retaliation. Militant groups could use the occupation of PoK as a rallying cry, leading to increased terror attacks within Indian territory. Security concerns would rise manifold. 5. International aid and intervention. Humanitarian crises often attract global attention and potential foreign intervention. This could open India to criticism, unwanted scrutiny, and even sanctions under international humanitarian law. Therefore, the human cost and regional instability that would follow the occupation of PoK make it a less attractive option, even after military success. Segment 5. Internal challenges and strategic patience. India's internal priorities also play a significant role in this decision-making process. Post-war, the focus usually shifts to reconstruction, economic growth, and social cohesion. 1. Post-war recovery. War, even when won, is expensive. Rebuilding infrastructure, compensating victims, and revitalizing the economy become top priorities. Occupying PoK would divert valuable resources. 2. Governance and integration. Administering a newly occupied region with little loyalty to the Indian state would pose immense governance challenges. It would require administrative overhaul, local engagement, and sustained military presence. 3. Legal and constitutional complexities. Incorporating PoK into the Indian Union would raise constitutional questions. Article 370 has already been abrogated, but integrating a hostile territory poses new legal challenges. 4. Social and political unity. Maintaining domestic unity in the aftermath of war is essential. Taking PoK could polarize opinions and lead to political instability, protests, or even communal violence. 5. Strategic patience as a doctrine. India's long-term strategy often revolves around strategic patience, waiting for the right moment to act in a manner that aligns with its economic and geopolitical interests. Reclaiming PoK diplomatically or through internal fissures within Pakistan may be a more sustainable goal. Segment 6. Future outlook and conclusion. Looking ahead, the question remains whether India will ever reclaim PoK, and if so, how. While military means may provide short-term success, lasting peace and integration would require diplomacy, internal stability in Pakistan, and perhaps, the support of the local population in PoK itself. India is currently focused on growing its global stature through technology, trade, defense partnerships, and soft power. Any move that jeopardizes these gains must be weighed carefully. Ultimately, India's decision not to move into PoK, even after a military win, is a testament to strategic maturity. It reflects an understanding that true power lies not in conquest but in control of narrative, economy, diplomacy, and national unity. Rather than a missed opportunity, this restraint can be viewed as a deliberate and wise choice, crafted for long-term success in a complex geopolitical landscape.